Good morning. Yes, it's Dick Sams, and I started WMOA when they were in the old, what now known as the Dime Bank building in 1964. Worked there for about a year, and then enlisted in the Navy Reserve, did 6 months of boot camp and naval radio school, come back here for 6 months at the Reserve Center, then left for a couple of years of active duty, then came back here. When I was on active duty, if I had a week off, I would let them know here that I was coming into town, and somebody would go on vacation, and I would make a little extra money DJing for that week. But to get into the technology or lack of at the bank building, we were in Suite 426 of the Dime Bank building, clear across the back part of the building. Our studio consisted of a very small board, probably 5 or 6 channels. We had the big turntables on each side of us, 3 reel-to-reel tape decks, and no cartridges, and 2 loose leaf books. One had live copy in it, arranged alphabetically. The other was our intros to the programs that we would read live. But the commercials were primarily on the reel-to-reels, and there may be more than one cut on them. So your log would tell you Baker & Baker Jewelers tape 1, cut 3. So you had to flip your little switch over to the Q channel and wind it through. You know how the tape sounds like when it's winding real fast. Count 1, 2, 3, and then cue it up, and you were ready to go.
So you didn't have to double click on anything, is what you're saying?
No, a mouse was something that came out of a hole in the wall.
Yeah, exactly. Wow. That's the voice of Dick Sams, former program director here at the Pioneer City Station. Before it was at 925 Lancaster. And I've kind of been waiting on this one, Dick, because we've heard tons of stories about people that used to work in this building. So to get a bit of a different look, I'm sure it was drastically different than the way you see it now.
Oh, yeah, it was. This building was different. Let me go back and just mention a couple of people that worked down at the bank. Of course, Dick Geyer was the morning man. I grew up listening to Dick and then got to work with him. Tom Hill, a fellow I was with in high school, sort of got me started in it because we DJ'd for what they called sock hops.
Okay, yeah.
And Tom got into broadcasting, and I sort of followed him. And that was pretty much the crew. We had a couple of weekend people, 2 8-hour shifts on weekends. We'd sign off at 11 o'clock on Sundays and midnight during the week, unless it was a West Coast Reds game.
Exactly.
And then, the boss called me one night about 1:30, says, Dick, I'm going to bed. I said, well, we're into extra innings. I just want to know if we're still going when Dick comes in the morning, do I get to keep the Reds game on, or do we go to his regular programming? As for your question, the people that were here, Larry Steinel, Bob McCarthy, who came to Marietta from somewhere over in New York, and he sort of reminded me of Ralph Allen when I listened to Ralph the other day. I mean, he had that buttery, smooth voice. Don Statz, John Richardson, Bill White, Ernie Hartong, Rich Galen, Mike Weber. See.
I mean, just names that we've heard all about this month.
I heard somebody mention Steve Glasser the other day. I hadn't heard that name for a while. Doug Bernhardy. Most of these were, or a lot of them, were Marietta College students.
Right.
Because when Ray Rosenblum owned the station, he liked to employ Marietta College students. And some of them had no training at all. If I can tell a quick story here. But Sally Hilly, we all know Sally.
Oh, absolutely.
World records and everything. She was an early person at WMOA. Matter of fact, she was with us down at the bank building. And she did this show about 5 minutes till 11 at night called Weather Girl.
Okay.
So she had a little studio, much like the Stimulus studio, in her home.
Yeah.
And whoever the DJ was would put on her theme song, Alley Cat, and say, Weather Girl, are you there? And she'd say, yes, I'm here. So one night they were having a party or something, and Dr. Hilly, her husband, decided, he says, are you there, Weather Girl? No. This is the weather guy. He didn't know whether to shut the thing off or what to do. So,
it's the memories.
A little unregulated.
Right, absolutely. Yeah, I bet he didn't have his license. I've heard that you guys had to have a special card or a license.
At that time, the FCC required you to have a third-class radio telephone license with a broadcast endorsement because we had to take transmitter readings every half hour, and then adjust the transmitter if necessary, and of course turn the power up in the morning and down at night. When we were in the bank building, it was a little dial that you, because the transmitters was in Williamstown, we were at the bank building. You could look out the window and see the light on the tower, if it's foggy, you could do the dial. But another bank building story. Here we go. When the power would go off in downtown Marietta, Charlie Clark, our engineer at the time, whom I'd forgotten to mention, lived right across the street here. Well, he would call and say, let's go to Williamstown. We had a small board over there and I think a tape deck and one turntable, and we could go to Williamstown and broadcast till they got the power back on in Marietta.
How about that?
So,
I mean, that's just, it's incredible the amount of resources that you had to use right at your disposal. Of course, you had to jump across the river, but still, as long as it's on the air, you're in good shape.
right.
Yeah.
Right.
No dead air.
And with, I'm really curious about, as I see the gifts of sorts that you have to the side, what do you have that just maybe is just from your collection over the years? Kind of take us with that. What's on your right hand?
Well, I brought in a package of LPs this morning. We used to have a lot of pre-program shows from all of the different branches of the service, Social Security, Treasury Department, and they were like 15 or 30-minute self-contained radio shows. We would use those as fill. And when some of them had some pretty good music on them. So when we were done with them, instead of throwing them out, someone just took them home. So,
Why not?
I remember the other day when I heard somebody say that they had a vinyl collection. I thought, I think I've got some of those in the basement down there. I'll just bring up and let him add these to the collection.
That's awesome.
And we really appreciate that, and it's just amazing. And when you take those, you don't get the big bucks, so you got to fill in when needed. So the occasional tape deck doesn't hurt. But with stories and memories that you have from growing and evolving over the years, from being a part of the radio business to now being on the listening side, what is the one thing that you miss from your radio days, and do you still have that bug to get back on the radio? What's the thing that you think too?
Just what I'm doing right now, being on and being able to talk. A couple of times when WMOA has contributed to local charity auctions for a guest newscaster, somebody has given me that as a gift.
I see.
So I've got to do a couple of those over the years, and then the Christmas Zoo. I believe I've managed to be on the Christmas Zoo just about every year since Dick started it in the bank building down there, because our fire department up at Oak Grove, where I've been since '71, always does a Santa Claus run. So I bring in some stuffed animals, and whoever's on, Kyle or Dan or Dick, lets me talk about the Santa Claus run and promote that, and sort of fills in the,
Yeah, exactly.
the radio desire there.
Yeah, it kind of knocks off the rust a little bit too. I mean, you haven't made a single mistake yet, so I think you were practicing in front of the mirror before you came up or something, right?
No, I did give a little thought as to what I was going to say, and the gentleman that had been on before me brought back some memories that I had forgotten about. One story I don't know all the details of, and I haven't heard told yet because this happened while I was away, but a garbage truck ran into the building. It was parked over here on one of the side streets, and the brakes let go, and I think Larry Steinle was probably on the air, and it made a big hole in the basement wall.
Oh, wow.
Because they always joked about the garbage truck.
Wow.
Well, a perspective that I want to get, you had alluded to it, and a couple people have, is Kyle. So Kyle, to me in particular, is the savvy veteran, but our guests have been able to see Kyle as the young kid, that was wide-eyed and coming into the station. What have you seen from his evolution, and maybe just other people, even Johnny, the station owner, as being just a younger version of themselves, and seeing them to where they are today? Could you ever have forecasted where they would be?
No, I was surprised to hear that Kyle had been here for 30 years. I believe it is. That, I mean, it just doesn't seem that long. And Johnny was just a kid when, matter of fact, Big John was working here when Wendy, his last child, was born. And we always joked with Johnny. Almost had the basketball team, and he had to show up with a cheerleader. But Big John was something to work with. I did most of my ball games with Larry, and at that time when we got the FM on the air, we could do 2 ball games a night. So
right.
We picked up Fort Fry, and I did one season of football with him. And the press boxes in the smaller schools sometimes leave things to be desired. We went, I believe it was Bellsville one time for a football game. It had a little box on top of 4 utility poles. You climbed up a ladder and through a trap door, except there was no door on the trap door. So you had to be very careful or step backward and take a really quick trip about 25 feet to the ground. But yes, a lot of the basketball games, the commercials were done live. We didn't come back to the studio for commercials. Larry would do the pregame, the play-by-play, and I would keep the stats and do the halftime show. And Marietta College, I was talking earlier, that had the contract for sectional tournaments at that time. So sometimes we'd do 2 or 3 ball games a night down there.
Wow.
And some of the commercials at that time we could come back to the studio for because they had a direct line in.
Exactly.
But, when you're out in the country like that. And I have heard people talking about tapping into telephones. Yes. Remember doing that. The line was supposed to be there. It wasn't there. So you always carry a lot of wire with you.
You know, that's something that we're starting to run into because as the years go by and the technology progresses, you know, we're live streaming football games with the Warren Warriors and the Marietta Tigers. And now we're running into the same problem with Ethernet cables that are supposed to be there and they're not. So, you know, we have a couple hundred feet of that stuffed in a backpack in case we need to run it. So I'm not going to say it's similar, but it kind of is, just with a whole different ball game.
Yeah, many things change, a lot stays the same.
Yeah.
Somebody brought in some of these cartridges here, which I haven't seen in probably 40-some years.
Right.
And, we did not have them, as I mentioned, at the bank building, and that was one of the big improvements I found when I got back from my 2-year stint in the Navy up here, was we had acquired 3 cart machines, and that made life a lot easier.
I bet.
Because you didn't have to cue through the reel-to-reel tapes to find the commercial you wanted, as long as somebody remembered to erase the cart before they put the new commercial on top of it, and you end up with 2 of them.
I got to say, I'm wondering if you can look back, was it a strict business when you were working in the industry?
Not really. Now, when Dick's dad was the manager, when I first went to work, yes, he listened, I think from the time the station went on the air every morning until we went off at night. And one of his little quirks was temperatures. He lived out in Devola, and if you would give the temperature there in downtown Marietta and it was different from his temperature at home, he would call you. And so Sally, when she was doing her weather forecast, one of her favorite things was the temperature in Devola is 59 degrees. Here on Muskingum Drive, it's 61 or something.
Oh, wow.
Something like that.
So just a couple of degree difference there, and you get the phone call. That's incredible. How well, you know, it's the listener thing. We still get that, Jacob. You know, some people, they still call up, hey, what's the weather? When's it going to stop raining? What's the river level? And that's something we've been mixing into the morning show recently.
Right. The river level is very important when it's up, and the time and temperature. The Dick's old morning show had the initials TNT, time, news, and temperature. That was of course, with the automated stations anymore, you don't get the temperature, and you're lucky to get the time.
That's right.
Oh, absolutely.
So, one thing we love about WMOA.
Hey, we're here for you.
And with that, to keep on the trend of stories, we hear all of the good things of all of the fun times, but was there ever a time of you in particular, or maybe similar to the intern story, and you were like, man, I messed up, that was a close call, I'm surprised I'm not fired, or was it smooth sailing? Because I know I've had a couple mistakes along the way.
Oh, there's probably some of those. I don't recall them precisely, but I'm sure everybody has stories like that.
Oh, yeah.
When maybe you thought the mic was off and the mic wasn't off.
That's exactly it.
And we love that. And I just want to keep to the theme of maybe if somebody that hasn't been mentioned, I know you've been joining us along the ride and listening to the various things. Who were you happy to hear from? Or, you know, what was a story that really evoked memories that really just brought back your times at Dime Bank or just with WMOA in general?
Well, some of the ones you've had on was, way after my time. Your 80s and 90s people. I was really glad to listen to Rich yesterday, because Rich was a talent within himself, as was Bill White. And Bill is just a fantastic person when it comes to writing things and like that. John Richardson and I have remained friends. We're actually neighbors. I guess he is going to be your Thursday guest.
Yes.
Yep, that's right. It's incredible. I mean, the small town stuff, you get the chance to work with these people here in town. There is a lot of people in this area, but there's a very good chance that you've run into them somewhere, whether it be at the gas station, or you used to work with them, or you see them at the store, however it was. And then, chances are also that you're going to be living very close to these people as well. So those friendships can live on.
And here a few years ago, I'm watching, I think it was Fox Sports or ESPN, and I hear this voice and its name Marty Reed. I said, well, we used to have a Marty Reed, and I got to looking at him. I believe his last name was actually Klingeman, but he went by Reed.
Huh.
But it was the same person. So WMOA has really been the cradle for some future announcers nationwide.
Oh yeah, big time talent. We just heard from Mr. Galen yesterday speaking about his time, with Larry King and working, in the political world, things like that. It's incredible how far you can, spread out after your time at a small radio station, but never forget about the small radio station where you started and credit back.
Go back a bit here. Somebody had asked about the station down there coming up here. I believe I did the last shift from the bank building. We'd normally go off at midnight, but I think we went off at 10 o'clock that night. They had moved some of the stuff up here, but I believe they had to move the transmitter from Williamstown up here on the hill. They had a brand new board up here and some of the other things. So signed off down there, and Larry had been working, doing some wiring and stuff up here. So it was a frantic 8 or 10 hours trying to get back on the air for Dick in the morning. I think we missed it, but maybe half an hour, but by 7 o'clock up and rolling from the new 925 Lancaster Street studios.
Wow, that's incredible. And could you imagine being here on that and being able to say that? Now we beat high atop Harmer Hill into the ground sometimes, but being able to say that for the first time had to have been awesome.
I'm just envious that you have a window you can look out of. We could look through the window and see the street, but not this, because this was our transmitter room, and we were watching the transmitters, which was probably a requirement at that time. You'd be able to see what was going on.
Yeah, absolutely.
Dick, we just really appreciate the time, and in the last few minutes here, I think something that would really, help paint a picture of your time in radio. Before you got started into the business, and you had talked about how you had got that bug, what were some national or maybe regional radio stations that had really, kind of shaped you to say, that's something that I want to aspire to do, or this is something that I want to be a part of?
Okay, the regional radio station, along with WMOA at that time, with the Parkersburg stations, and most of the younger kids would listen to WCEF 1050 on AM, but it was a daytime only station, run down at sundown. And nighttime you had WLS, WABC, CFL, CKLW, and one time our ship was in the Mediterranean or the Caribbean, and I actually tuned in WLS on our,
Is that right?
our radios down there. Yeah,
Wow.
That was sort of amazing. Yeah, we had to listen to out of town at night if you wanted rock music. WBZ Boston. Yeah.
Sure thing, yeah. Spreading around the entire United States with all these radio stations that were able to, be received on those old radios. Wherever you were, you could find something at least. And I'm sure when you get those deep signals that are extremely far away from you, that's just got to be really strange. But never WMOA. I mean, that was maybe just a little too small,
I don't remember how far away the furthest I picked it up. It's a couple of times, if you get up on top of a hill, you'd be surprised when you're...
Yeah.
I think it improved when we get up here at the higher tower. The one over in Williamstown, barely tall enough to need a light on top.
Oh, wow.
And that's special stuff. And with, a close to be a sign-off of sorts, is there a message that you would say to the community about maybe your time with the station, or, just to say to the broadcasters just about the relationship that WMOA has with the community? What would you like to see from us from years to come, or from the community as well?
I think Marietta is extremely fortunate to have a local radio station that's truly a local radio station programmed. I mean, if things going on in Marietta, you don't have to wait to hear anything. It can be done right away. And like you said, you keep up on the river levels, and if something is happening, you can come on, give road reports, and that just doesn't happen on your satellite stations.
Right. Well, we're so happy to do it, and we're proud that we're able to flip these mics on whenever we need to get the information out. And, it's very rare when we don't have that opportunity. If we have a Reds broadcast or a Buckeye broadcast, we can still find the time to break in and get something done if it's important enough to have to get out to the people. But, here's the 75 more and 75 after that, I suppose.
That is absolutely true. Congratulations.
Thank you very much. Dick Sams here in the studio with us. It's been a pleasure. And, of course, you're welcome back anytime as an alum, and we'll be seeing you hopefully sometime in the very near future. You're listening to AM 1490 and FM 101.3 WMOA, Marietta.